Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to season 3 of the Experience Matters show. We have Ken Peterson on the show today, so it's going to be all about CX. It's going to be a great show. Ken, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and I have to say I love your background. You need to teach me how to do that for the next one.
Yeah, I will. It's terrific. I love it
Nah,
myself, and it really hits at the point of what we're talking about today, doesn't it?
absolutely, absolutely. Where tell us a little bit. I know you've been traveling like crazy. Which city are you in now?
I am, believe it or not, back in Honolulu finally, only for 3 more days. But yeah,
Nice.
I've had a nice little tour. Been in, let's see, Denver, Atlanta, Seattle, Portland, Spokane, Missoula, Denver again, and finally back to Honolulu. This time it's a much shorter
Oh
trip.
man.
I'm going to Boston and back, so it'll be great.
Yeah, yeah. So finally get a weekend at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you get to spend some time, not open this laptop, just spend quality time with everyone at home. But I know your schedule has been crazy. Thank you so much for doing this, Ken. I know we've got a few people on the on the show already. So let's kick this off.
Sure.
Yeah, so today's session is going to be everything about the outer loop, right? And you can see it in big bold letters there. So the goal of today's show is going to be, one, walking you through what really is the outer loop, right? What are those aspects of the outer loop? How is it different from inner loop? Inner loop, we know the tickets and how people close tickets. How is it different? What are those different things that we need to think of when it comes to outer loop? Why is it so important? And then, of course, as part of our CX platform at QuestionPro, we have an entire module now that's dedicated to the outer loop. So we'll walk you through a demo of that as well. Um,
Yeah.
Ken, with that, over to you. Do you want to start off with telling us what is outer loop and how is it different?
Well, outer loop is really that idea that there are so many issues that you come across in a daily basis, especially within a CX program, that you get ticket after ticket on specific issues. And obviously, with our NPS Plus, we're identifying root cause within those issues. So it's now being able to take a look at those root causes and actually start
Mm-hmm.
to look at the ones that are causing problems and create a strategy for fixing it instead of sort of a one off ad hoc approach.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And so in a lot of ways, I mean we're so used to the inner loop, like it's but what I always say about it, and I still want to encourage everyone to do this. I am not discouraging anyone from
Yeah.
using inner loop. It is
Yeah.
absolutely critical. Um, but everything you look at when you're talking about closed loop feedback with this what we call the inner loop, it's reactive, it's trailing, it's very tactical in nature. I mean, there are
Mm.
actually companies that that's all they thrive on. I mean, that's their core of the program is just responding to closed loop tickets. But are you improving anything, or are you just reacting to things? And
Yeah.
that's really what we're trying to get out of when we start talking about outer loops. So, I mean, we're familiar with that some of those inner things that we do. You get an email, you feed it back. But with outer loop, we're really trying to make a difference in terms of being leading and proactive and strategic. And it really all comes down to are we able to put together something so we actually don't get more of those
Mm.
CX tickets? We can actually reduce those inner loop, as we call it, and actually grow the business, make people more loyal. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
goal of CX. There is certainly a lot to be said when you talk about inner loop and being able to recover with an individual customer. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot more to be said about taking the strategic side to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like you said, that you can't choose one or the other. Both are equally important, right? You can't, you have to address your customers. You have to also put changes in place and not be so reactive, like you had mentioned there, right? You have to make those systemic changes so that down the line, you'll have less customers to reach out to. But it's definitely something that goes hand in hand. And
Exactly.
yeah, and a lot of our clients in a loop, fairly widespread. People understand the importance of it. It is being practiced across most of our clients. Sadly, outer loop, not as much. right? Just the importance of that has,
And they both fall into what we call closed loop feedback. But most people, as soon as you say that, think, okay, I'm going to get a complaint and respond to it. And it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How do you want to do this? Shall we show them our module, our whole outer loop module?
Yeah, I'd love to show them. I'll start, fairly simply here. Let me move over to the space here. And I mean, I'll sort of start. I mean, we all sort of know the whole process. You have a survey here, you're going through it. I mean, it's, pretty standard that you go through. We love our NPS Plus, of course, here, because you can, as soon as you click that rating, this is really what triggers it. Having that customer be able to say, here's my root cause. And it's not limited to here. As we're building out even the inner loop, you can identify root causes and say, here's one of the root causes for this problem, and have multiple identification. But here we're asking the customer to really just go in and say what really stood out. And so as soon as you select that and it moves forward, that's really what we're doing. We're recording that root cause, and we're able to report on it. I mean, everyone's familiar with our dashboard portals and reporting, so that when you see, when you start looking at I'm sorry, I clicked forward too fast. When you start looking at these root causes here, you can actually see some of those that are standing out, such as availability of products and variety of products. Now, traditionally, if you had only inner loop, you're going to get one of these. You're going to get a little ticket email that says, hey, customer complained about something. You respond to it. But ultimately, it's not bringing those numbers down. Responding to that does not bring the numbers down. It's only when you go ahead and take on something, and it goes beyond just clicking through and working the ticket and being able to say, okay, I can update this. As we talked about, it's immediate. You get that email immediately, but the response isn't immediate. It's still dependent on humans. And guess what? Even closing a ticket, you can stumble. You can have a problem. You can actually upset customers in trying to close the ticket. I know I've told you the story about a rental car company that kept sending me, I complained once, they kept sending me that automated email and never fixed the problem. They never even thought to call, they never even thought to say, we have to fix something on an ongoing basis here. And so it just continued like that. And so really the idea for us is really to take it to that next step, which is the outer loop. And, it's part of our customer experience platform. As you see here, you go ahead and click on the outer loop. And the idea is that you can connect all those NPS plus root causes and actually build initiatives, work with teams, and be able to say, hey, we have something that we can fix here on an ongoing basis. And to me, that's very encouraging. Of course, I come from an operations background, so things like this excite me. But you can, just like any, just like any set of initiatives, we basically have put together a nice workflow, easy to use, easy to invite people into the system and say, hey, we're going to work on this, or we're going to work on that. And you can look, set up lanes, as we call them, when are we working on this? Or if you want to set up the lanes as operational lanes, things like that. So gives you that flexibility. It pulls in a lot of information automatically. So when you go to build a new initiatives, the root causes that have been selected are already there for you. And that's, that's part of our NPS Plus. And, that's what we try to make. We've tried to make it easy so you can start looking at these things and not have to switch between screens and go back and forth. I have seen one attempt at this previously, and it was like, oh, you sort of have to print out your report and then jot notes down and then put them onto this little, I'll call it, it sort of looks like journey mapping software, but you're sort of trying to transcribe from one thing to the other. And we've really tried to make it really easy. And then big thing with outer loop is, as I mentioned, it's not just service recovery, it's fixing the recurring errors. And it often sits above the store level. You still should include, for example, store personnel. You should include the frontline personnel, but often it spans that. I mean, these problems are systemic problems. So like everything we do, you can have unlimited initiatives. You can pull them from any feedback folder in your CX system. You can see active, inactive, closed. Sometimes you just have to give up on something. I mean, it might be just not a priority this year. So, hey, we're going to switch it out. But then you can recall that if you want to, which is great. So, and then there's all these.
Just so that I have a question. So with your, with your NPS plus, we get, okay, these are the problems that your detractors are facing or your passive customers are facing. So we've got those 5 areas, and that list can grow as well. And then what happens is that you pull in those areas, and then it comes into outer loop, and you get to prioritize those areas, and then you get to have different teams that are working on them with timelines in place so that you can track these improvements, right?
Exactly. And you're jumping right into my next screen. Because not only can you add new initiatives, obviously I can pick this survey. It will pull up the root causes that are applicable in this case. You can create those lanes that I showed you here. You can even talk about the effort and the impact. You can even assess that for yourself and add teams. Now I have a short team that just is you, me, and 2 others, but hey, we're a good team anyway. So, but what's terrific about this, I mean, it's not just a single lane view. You can actually pull up look at everything all at once. You can look at the scoring, how things are going, the progress. If you haven't worked it in a few days, there'll be an error flag on here. So if no one's touched this in a week, a little exclamation point shows up. If no one's touched it in 30 days, the little stop sign warning like flashes at you, almost like those circles, it just catches your attention, and that's the goal of it. So, but also there's also the opportunity to look at it from an effort impact. So you can actually see what you're working on, what the effort is, what the impact on, and you can actually, see, oh, well, here's 2 here that, would be, they call the easy wins. And you can click right in through here. In this case, this is a big bet here, a lot of effort, but it's also, a lot of payoff. So any one of these initiatives you can click on here, and you can create an entire plan for the organization right from this system here. And it really provides you with all that you need to do to make it happen. You have the task list. You have the checkpoints, sometimes called choke points, because if you don't get past them, the progress
nothing's gonna happen.
But you can assign it to people. You can say who's going to be contributing, so you have accountability, and that's the most important thing. I've seen some of these systems that they try to put in place, and it's like, all right, we're going to do this, but no one owns it. Oh, we need something to happen, but no one's helping out. So it just sits there and goes stale. There's warnings. And even little things such as taking notes, you can add comments about what's going on. Hey, we fielded the field work with QuestionPro, and it went marvelously, because all field work with QuestionPro goes very, very well, and we know that. So we've actually gotten past phase 1. We're 25% complete. Here are the people, so you can see it at a glance. But then, continuing on, it's not just the tasks that you have, but it's the conversations that you have as well. So we have this little section here called huddles, in which we can start putting together the notes, holding people accountable, showing who's doing what. So you can create a huddle. And, I love this part. Not only, I mentioned those activity thresholds before, where, hey, if you haven't done anything in a week, you get an exclamation point. If you haven't done anything in 30 days, but you can also assess the health of the program yourself. It is good to have that self-assessment. So you can look up front, and, when you saw those lanes, the smiley faces were there, and it's telling you, are we doing good, doing bad, or we're somewhere in between. So you can start adding information in here. You can use whatever tool that you want to use to do your huddle. You can huddle on Slack. You can huddle on Zoom. You take your notes here, and there it is for you. And so it's really very intuitive, very easy. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is have some impact on the metrics that you're gathering. And that's really where, again, you don't have to jump out of this screen. I don't have any metrics on here because we haven't measured anything for our Office Pro stores in many years. I think the Office Pro stores officially shut down about 45 years ago. I don't remember. I was quite young back then. But, again, it's all about looking at impact. It's all about understanding the milestones. And that root cause, again, will show up over and over and over as, as soon as you start seeing everything that's happening, everything that's making progress, you should see that NPS score change. You should see these scores going up and down. You'll see the root cause frequency decrease. You should expect to see it decrease. You can add in milestones. So you can say, hey, we finished checkpoint 1 here, and now are these going down? And so, it's that ability to do those metrics and really keep track of everything. And of course, if you're an operations person and you love to dig into the details, there's that whole activity screen. You can see what everyone is doing on what. And again, it's really about, having accountability. Those huddles are key elements. And of course, the metrics that you're going to measure yourself against. And so, all too often, I see so many organizations talk about inner loop, and they say, "Oh, what's the average close time on your inner loops? What's your resolve rate on inner loops?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're sort of missing the point here. It is important to close those. It's important to resolve those, but having something like this, having these initiatives where you can look at these lanes and say, hey, what's going on, from a strategic standpoint, just really makes all the difference in the world when you're talking inner loop versus outer loop."
Awesome, Ken. I love it, right? Because it's just that entire flow. Whether you're, partner of senior management, you want to see what everyone's been up to, how that improvements. I think the metrics is a fantastic, just to see all of it on one page, what the impact is, what are all the different initiatives that are being taken. But having said that, if there are 5 areas that are coming out, you don't need to do all 5, right? Just go in here, like you said, look at what your effort and we close those easy wins, because then you can get buy-in, you can get more people involved in the huddle, you can get frontline involved, you can get senior management involved. So much more can happen. So definitely target those first so that you can show improvement.
And the great part is when you get those people involved with the easy wins, it creates an enthusiasm that, you can't put a measure on that one. Everyone talks about word of mouth. It's really hard to put measure on word of mouth. Enthusiasm within the organization, feeling like you've accomplished something. I remember a quote from some Army general or something. He says, "You want to feel accomplished, the first thing you do in the morning is make your bed." I managed to accomplish this all week because I didn't use it, but the idea that you start by accomplishing something even so simple really gets that organization pushed behind it. It gets them enthusiastic, especially once you see the changes. And everyone talks about the return on investment for CX. It can show right here. It can show with the metrics. It can show with the initiatives that you take. And it's really simple and easy to get buy-in from management for it.
Absolutely. What do they need to do, Ken, in order to get this, for somebody who's got a CX program, they're collecting feedback, let's say about, 3-4 touch points across that journey. They're doing closed loop, let's say for all of the detractors that are coming in, they're doing the inner loop, whole tickets coming in and reaching out. How do they get started with the whole outer loop module? What do they do?
Well, first thing, as I mentioned early on, NPS plus. It's a requirement to do this, and it's the foundation for building up these root causes. If you don't have some way to identify those root causes, and we have to have a standardized way. If you add NPS plus into your survey, it's very easy. You can swap one out for the other. It's great. And you start asking those root causes. They're very simple. You should know your business and know what's going on, that you can add those root causes and know exactly what they are. And then you start building from there. As soon as you start getting some momentum behind those root causes, and again, it's really coming back to this portal here where you're going to see where those root causes are standing out, and they will. Without a doubt, there are going to be some things that customers, and that's why we force them to pick one, because they're going to pick something that they know stands out to them, and a couple of things will pop out, and then it's really easy. You can just, as I mentioned, click on outer loop. We can guide you through it. We can help you build that first initiative so that you can see how easy it really it is. I pretty much showed it right there. A few entry points, add the team that you want to have working around you. The team is important. And you've got your first initiative rolling. Set some milestones. set some checkpoints, add some tasks, and you're already rolling.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. For everyone on the call, some of our clients, they have a version of this happening already. Like you mentioned, it could be extremely manual. Reach out to us if you have any questions. I mean, feel free to add it in the chat. We'll be happy to take those questions now, or you can reach out to us separately, and we'll set up calls and walk you through how this could look for your organization. What are those, what are the steps that you need to take in order to build it out? If you want us to have a discussion with the team on what is inner loop, what is outer loop, how is it different, how you can get started, and what that impact is going to be for your organization, we'll be happy to do that. Feel free to reach out to us, and we can get back. Ken, any closing thoughts?
No, I think we've summed it up. You summed it up perfectly right there. It's it's not one or the other. It's both, and we can help you get there. And it's not a monumental task. Absolutely. But it's very important.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Ken. I hope you have a wonderful weekend at home before you have to get back out on the road again.
Thank you very much.
And
it's always a pleasure.
Everyone who joined, yes, thank you so much. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.